Welcome back to Off the Cuff Reviews. My name's Alex, and today I have a special video. We are going to be talking about The Revenant. So let's get into it. So today we will be covering the book The Revenant and comparing it to the movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. I was inspired to make this video because of another YouTuber that has a channel called Why the Book Wins. I really love her analysis of books and movies, and it got me kind of like more inspired to make more videos like this myself. And I wanted to talk about books and compare them to movies, or maybe just maybe talk about more books in general. I wanted like an excuse to read more books. And what better way to do that than actually make content out of it or compare it to a movie that they made about the book. The movie garnered a lot of attention for good reasons, so I decided to read the book and compare them. I had actually never read the book before watching the movie, but ended up going to Goodwill, and we found it at Goodwill. So I decided to finally, it was just sitting on the shelf after we picked it up at Goodwill, like a lot of our books are, and I decided to pick it up and read it specifically for this video, and I also wanted to see if it was any different than the actual movie. In this video, we are going to be comparing the differences and similarities of the movie and the book. So the novel was written by Michael Punke, I think is how you say his name. I could be saying that wrong, and I apologize. He is a former politician and attorney and now author, and you can tell he did a lot of research. Even though this story is fictional, it is rooted in a lot of historical realisms. You can tell that he actually did a lot of research to make sure things were as historically accurate as possible. The movie, however, took some creative liberties to make the story more dramatic on the big screen. The movie was directed by Alejandro Inarritu, who is like really masterful at directing. And I wanted, before I actually dive into this comparison, I wanted to let you guys know that when I saw this movie, I hadn't watched it for a while, for a long time. I knew about it, of course, and for a while I did really like Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor, but I never watched this because I just was like, no, I don't know about this like survival movie. It's not something that seems interesting to me at first, but then once I put it on, from the very beginning of the movie, I was pretty much just like stuck, glued to the screen, and really invested in the story, and I thought that it was actually a really great movie. So the story follows a man named Hugh Glass during the American fur trade in the 1820s, and it follows him as he navigates through his life. The first glaring difference between the book and the movie was that the movie opens with a really amazing shot of a battle taking place. This battle was shot perfectly and is a really gripping opener to the movie, but the book doesn't actually open with this battle. Instead, we kind of get thrusted right into Hugh Glass's experience on the frontier. There is a really huge scene in the book and the movie where Hugh Glass gets mauled by a bear. But in the book, it actually happens a little bit earlier than the movie. Pretty much by the second chapter, it's already happened. The bear attack, though, is super important to this entire story, because after this attack happens, he seems like he might actually pass away, but the group of people he travels with finds him, and one of them turns on him and leaves him for dead afterwards. Now, and that happens in the book and the movie. So the book follows these men that were with him as they move on, and it tells us a bit of their backstory and how they got to this place and why they are the way that they are, why they are so evil. The book also dives into Glass's backstory as well, And throughout these backstories, there's a lot of historical context added to kind of really like show you how like it tries to really portray this historical realism and throw it in your face, so you know exactly it, like you can kind of like picture in your head exactly what's happening, where it's happening, and like you can really like throw yourself into this because of how real life and how like, you know, this was like a real life experience on the frontier back in the day. The book actually takes its time fleshing out the characters and also Glass's survival. There is a painstaking detail exploring the survival aspect and also the historical context of the background of each character. Punk E, I guess is how I'm just gonna start saying it, is his name, describes how Glass makes tools and scavenges for water and food and navigates with all of his injuries. The realism he portrays throughout this story really brings the authenticity of the story and the life on the frontier. That's like pretty much the whole point of the book. It shows like this riveting story of this bear attack and this person and these people who are more fictionalized, but it's more or less supposed to show you the life on the frontier and kind of show you what could have taken place there. The book portrays the character development slightly different than the movie. Glass is shown as a stoic character that is super resourceful and driven. The book shows Glass as being motivated by his principles and his honor. And the book also portrays John Fitzgerald, which is the antagonist, as selfish and shows that he is really just trying to self-preserve, which is why he left Glass to die in the first place. But the movie kind of does this a little bit differently. The movie shows Glass's survival and revenge against Fitzgerald as a dramatic and emotional moment, rather than his principles. Then Fitzgerald is shown as being very outwardly malicious in his intentions, and these differences are huge because the book is more realistic to how life was on the frontier, and the movie shows it as being way more dramatic. The revenge plot is obviously a huge plot and a theme of the book, but Punky's take is more grounded. He depicts it as survival and resilience of humans, and using those reasons for justice and revenge, which is more realistic to how life was on the frontier in the 1800s, but the movie takes this to a whole other level. Inarritu introduced a subplot about Glass's son's death, which also added to his dramatic and emotional reasons for the revenge and survival aspects. The film is more about the revenge and redemption, and that theme and plot drives the whole story, whereas the book tries to stay way more grounded and real. In my opinion, I like the movie more than the book, but they are both good and great in their own ways. I like the dramatic retelling of the story in the movie and how Inarritu directed each scene. I feel like DiCaprio really captured the emotion of the role. I personally like how he brought this world to life in his own like cinematic way, but the book is still really good, and if you want a grounded like story of revenge and honor, definitely check this out, and you also learn a lot about the frontier and how life was in the 1800s for people on the frontier. In conclusion, the differences between the differences between The Revenant, the novel, and the film highlight the unique strengths and limitations of their respective mediums. Punky's novel provides a historically grounded, like, telling of this story of these people, even though they are fictionalized, and tries to ground it in historical realism, whereas the movie takes definitely like a lot of liberties in the dramaticness of it all. Like, they try to really upsell the emotional and dramatic reasons for the revenge plot, which is more like to show you like in the book it's more about honor and sacrifice and stuff like that, and self-preservation, whereas in the movie it's more dramatic and there's like revenge and like they're just doing things because they're evil. And I personally like the movie more for that. I feel like if they were to make it more grounded in realism, even though that still would be a really good story, it probably wouldn't have hit as hard in the movie medium for audiences if they didn't add these aspects, especially that battle in the beginning. I feel like that was so gripping and really draws you in. It glues you to the screen just because of how it's directed. It's so intense and realistic, and they just really like did a really great job with that, and I feel like that was like a really great way to open this story. But both versions offer like compelling interpretations of the same historical narrative here, and they demonstrate how a single story can be adapted to serve different artistic purposes, which I really enjoy about this entire thing. And after reading the book, it made me have more of an appreciation for the differences of books and movies, and why a lot of times people do like the book more than the movie, or vice versa. There are times where I like the book more than the movie, for sure. I just personally like the more dramatic elements of the story in the movie aspect. But I do definitely understand why some people would like the book more. It definitely has more of a historical, like, realism about the writing as well compared to the actual movie. The book definitely, like, you can tell like it's like a guy who just like was really interested in this time period and wanted to talk about like stories of the way life was back then and show how things are and how things were. He really wanted to dive into that, and he showed how knowledgeable he is. It's just that like it wasn't as dramatic and gripping as maybe the movie was. The book is more realistic and grounded, like I said, and I feel like if you're into more grounded, realistic, historical tellings of stories, definitely grab the book. And if you guys are into that, but also like the more dramaticness of like a movie and cinematic elements added of a great director and a great actor, definitely check out the movie as well. I think you guys should do both. Read the book and check out the movie, because both are great in their own aspects. But there you have it. That was my review and I guess analysis and comparison of The Revenant from the book and the movie, and what makes both of them great in their own way. If you guys like this kind of stuff, let me know down below in the comments, and I will see you guys there. We will discuss this. Maybe join my Patreon. It's very cheap, only $1 a month. And yeah, I'll see you guys over there, and thanks for watching. Stick around for the next book review or whatever I decide to do. I'm reading a book now. I just don't want to let you guys know what it is just yet. But yeah, I wanted to do another book comparison, movie comparison video. So stick around for that. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks for watching. They call me a god. They call me a god.
I'm about to go off like a weapon, fuel to the